we talked with Seth Lugo a couple weekends back at Royals Rally about inning workload, right? And he threw 200 plus innings, and then you include the postseason, it's over 220.
Mhm.
And for a guy that had never really thrown more than 150, 160 in his innings, does that impact somebody for the next year? You've got guys like Noah Cameron who had never thrown that amount of innings before in a single season. Cole had the same thing in 2024, and Bubic, of course, was trending that way last year. Is that something you talk about in the offseason where maybe they do have an outing where they only throw 5 innings in April so that they can go longer in the season? Or is it, hey, the more they build up, the more innings they throw, it's not going to impact them the next year because you have the offseason?
Those things make me nervous as hell, right? You think about these guys and the amount of innings and the work they put in, not just in the game, but in between their starts. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of throws. There's a lot of work in the weight room, in the training room, and we are using all of the resources that we have available to us to make sure that they're healthy, strong, and running through the finish line. Do we pay attention to what happened last year, 2 years ago? Absolutely, right? What does that look like? And the problem is it's not a blanket plan for the whole system. It can't be. Each individual guy is different, right? Seth Lugo is way different than Chris Bubich. Seth has been a starter, been a reliever, been a starter. Now he's a full-time starter. He understands, and he's 36 years old. Really understands what his body is doing. And Chris is the same way, but they throw the ball different, right? So how I like to look at it is managing what you're doing in between starts, using technology, using pulse, using our counter movement jumps, using everything that we have in the training room available to say, okay, he's a little down this week in strength. So let's pull back in the throwing program. Let's maybe skip aside this week, right? Get back to baseline or get stronger again, and then start pushing. If you're doing squats every day, right, for 162 days, eventually something's gonna give way. So you got to find those areas in there to rest. I never like to take away innings in a game from a guy. How they earn their money. That's what they do for their job, and they work really hard to pitch as deep into the game as possible. So to take away innings in a game is not my favorite thing to do. If we're blowing a team out, we're up 10-0, and it's the sixth inning. Maybe that's a good time to pull them out. But what if they're rolling really really well? They got a one hitter going into the sixth inning. We say, oh, we want to take you out for rest. This guy might throw the game of his life that day. Right? What does that do for his confidence down the road? If I pull him out, I say if Q decides to pull him out, if we decide to pull him out, you know what you know what does that do for his brain? Say 6 innings. I mean, come on. I could have went way deeper into the game. So there's that fine line that you have to walk to understand the mentality of the pitcher and the health of the pitcher. Nobody solved it yet. This injury bug, but we're working really hard to try.